I broke lots of things. I don't even remember the ones, but especially my face a lot, my legs, my arm. I've been carrying a big injury in my shoulder for so many years. But the worst definitely was when I was very young and I got hit by a mallet on top of my eye, and part of my forehead was completely destroyed, like into pieces, the bone. So I had a surgery, they cleaned everything up. I spent like 4 or 5 months with nothing, no bone, just the skin. That I talked to my mother. I was 10 years old and I said, I think I'm gonna quit polo. Since I remember, I play polo or I stick and ball. I don't remember when was the first time I got on a horse and I was already hitting a ball. I was very young back then and I always liked it. But at the beginning, nobody pushed me to do it. And as I said, I always liked competing and playing different sports. Polo was one of them. When I became older and I was already playing more, not professionally, but I was taking the sport more serious, then I realized that it was going to be my thing for the future, you know. Just to criticize the sport a bit, let's say, I think we're a little bit behind in terms of security with helmets and different things. Of course, when you play football, when you play golf, when you play some sports, the worst that can happen to you is break a leg or something. But with polo, you can get hit with the ball that travels nearly 230 kilometers per hour. Then you can fall off from a horse going at 60 kilometers per hour. You can be crushed by another horse during the field. We go very close, one horse to each other, and sometimes if you turn to the wrong place or you didn't see somebody coming, you can be crushed or you can crush somebody else. So many things can happen and things happen so quickly that sometimes are difficult to control. Being hit by the mallet as well is another thing. Sometimes when you swing or somebody else swing and you're close, they can hit you really hard anywhere in your body.
Qué caída fea. La de Pablo McDonough.
Well, that day I was a bit unlucky. I was about to receive a pass, and the pass was short, and the opponent took the ball and turned right. The moment I tried to come close to him and I was behind him, he missed the ball and he made another swing and tried to hit the ball again. And in that moment, he hit the head of my horse. So my horse fainted. So from 1 second to the other, the horse went down. My first reaction when I fall was to stand up quickly, and the moment I stood up, then the horse recovered. It went down, but stood up, and I was right there in the middle of the way. So it was kind of the horse riding me instead of the other way around. When you get to the field and you play, I give you the example of the Argentine Open. When you go out there and you have the people watching, especially in a final, you forget who you are. You just want to win. And polo gets as well. You get the adrenaline of being on a horse. It's a bit of a lifestyle as well because you have to dedicate a lot of time to the horse. It's not only about me. It's about how the horse can perform. So it's a combination of so many things. But if I have to say why I like so much polo, is because right now it gives me a huge chance of competing and doing something I like every day. I was playing in England with Prince Bahar from Brunei, and we went out for a good dinner. That was the first time I met Richard, and it was very like you go to a dinner where you know the person for such a long time. It was only the very first time. So all the people in Richard Mille, it's like a big family. And I always felt like whatever I was doing with them was something nice and easy and with no effort. I was always so happy to be around the brand, doing things with the brand, because personally I like watches a lot. I always like watches. So it's a bit of a privilege and how lucky I am to be linked to or a friend of the brand which is always around. I used to have some other watches before, and the moment of course I started wearing Richard Mille, then it's very difficult when you see another watch to find something interesting about other watches. I was so happy the very first time I saw the watch in 2012 at the fair, and it was very impressive how strong the watch is. It was hidden by a ball, by a mallet, by a stirrup, by another horse. And every time I felt like something hit the watch, and I said, I shouldn't check the watch because I'm sure this time the watch is destroyed. And you have a look at it, and it's still there with probably a few more scratches, but everything is exactly the same and still works perfect after 6 years. Sometimes I wear some other pieces from Richard Mille, but always get back to the 53 is the one I like the most.
Le carbone TPT associé à la glace saphir feuilletée permet de magnifier ce fantastique mouvement 5301 tout en le préservant des chocs. On a déjà quand même une expérience de plusieurs années dans ce matériau qui est très léger, qui est incassable, qui est en plus esthétiquement très joli et où on n'a aucun retour de marché. Chacune des montres réalisées en TPT est unique. Richard voulait une montre capable de résister à tout type de choc pendant les matchs de polo, tout en laissant le mouvement visible. Pour arriver à ça, on a inventé la glace saphir feuilletée, qu'on a brevetée et qui est indestructible. Ils partent d'un bloc de saphir, comme pour nos montres en saphir. Dans ce bloc de saphir, ils le séparent en deux. Ils usinent déjà le dessous de la glace de dessus et le dessus de la glace de dessous. Donc ces deux rayons-là, après, permettent d'être assemblés à l'aide de ce film PVB. Une fois que ça s'est assemblé, ils usinent tout le pourtour de la glace. Et puis après ça, on vient faire notre traitement anti-reflet sur la glace pour qu'on puisse avoir une visibilité du mouvement exceptionnel de cette montre 5301. Donc pour arriver à cette glace saphir en deux parties, on a commencé par faire des tests sur des rondelles de saphir de différentes épaisseurs qu'on a testées au mouton pendule, 5000G à chaque fois. Et puis c'est ce qui nous a permis de définir une épaisseur de glace pour ensuite passer à cette glace tonneau qui est bien particulière à toutes les montres Richard Mille. Donc l'avantage de cette glace saphir feuilletée, c'est qu'une fois assemblée sur le boîtier qu'on a passé au test, on n'a jamais pu casser cette glace avec le mouton pendule. Donc pour pouvoir vraiment voir l'efficacité du film qui maintient en fait tout le saphir, la glace monobloc, j'ai dû prendre un marteau pour briser cette glace. Une fois la glace brisée, on a pu réaliser des tests d'étanchéité et on a vu que la montre restait étanche. Et puis en démontant cette pièce, on a remarqué que le saphir restait vraiment solidaire et on n'avait aucune particule de saphir qui était à l'intérieur de la montre.
L'objectif était de créer une pièce hyper résistante au choc, parce que le polo est un sport très brutal. Le but, c'est de travailler sur une architecture qui puisse résister à toutes ces contraintes. Nous avons cherché à réaliser un calibre avec la même dimension artistique qu'une RM12 et la complexité de la RM2701 en ajoutant des câbles. Nos horlogers ont une très grande difficulté à assembler les câbles, les croiser et les assembler sur le mouvement sans rayer les autres composants qui sont déjà préassemblés. Une autre complexité dans le calibre a été de créer du volume, de donner cette sensation du volume, d'exploiter le vide et le plein pour créer un effet architectural sur ce calibre. Nous avons utilisé des ponts en titane pour avoir une rigidité et les câbles pour amortir les chocs. Tout ça évidemment a été calculé par les ingénieurs afin d'optimiser au maximum la technique au service de l'esthétique.